The America's Got Talent stage has seen thousands of dreamers, but on this particular night, no one expected history to walk out in the form of a small Filipino boy with nervous eyes and a shy smile. Dressed simply, his clothes looked worn, as if they carried stories of hardship stitched into every seam. As he stepped onto the massive AGT stage, the lights towered over him, and the audience murmured quietly, unsure of what to expect. Simon Cowell leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Howie Mandel tilted his head with curiosity. Sofia Vergara smiled gently, while Heidi Klum whispered something to her fellow judge. When the boy introduced himself, his voice trembled slightly as he explained where he came from. A tiny village in the Philippines, where electricity was unreliable, food was sometimes scarce, and dreams often felt too big to hold. He spoke about helping his family, about singing to escape hunger and fear, about practicing late at night, so his neighbors wouldn't hear. The audience fell silent. This wasn't just another audition. It was the beginning of a story no one in that room would ever forget. When Simon finally asked, "So tell me, what are you going to do for us today?" The boy swallowed hard and answered softly, "I'm going to sing." A few polite claps echoed through the theater, but doubt lingered in the air. The music began slow, almost haunting, and then it happened. The very first note left his mouth, and the entire room froze. It wasn't just good. It wasn't just impressive. It was unreal. His voice carried pain, power, and purity far beyond his years, soaring effortlessly through the auditorium. Audience members leaned forward, jaws dropping. Sophia's eyes widened in disbelief. Heidi's hand flew to her mouth. Howie whispered, "No way," under his breath. And Simon Cowell, known for his brutal honesty and impossible standards, sat upright, his expression shifting from skepticism to shock in a matter of seconds. Every note was controlled, emotional, and technically flawless. It felt less like a performance, and more like a confession poured straight from the soul of a boy who had lived too much life too soon. As the song continued, the boy's story unfolded through his voice. You could hear the nights of hunger, the days of labor, the dreams whispered in the dark. He sang as if his entire future depended on this one moment, and in many ways it did. Flashbacks played on the big screen behind him, images of his village, his family, his modest home. The audience began to cry openly. Grown men wiped tears from their eyes. Women clutched their hearts. Even the judges looked visibly emotional. Simon stared at the stage, stunned, shaking his head slowly, as if trying to convince himself this was real. The boy hit a high note so clean and powerful that the crowd erupted into applause mid-song, something rarely seen on AGT. Yet he didn't break focus. His eyes closed, his hands trembled, but his voice never wavered. In that moment, he wasn't just a contestant. He was proof that talent knows no borders, no poverty, no limits. As the final note echoed through the theater, there was a brief second of silence, then absolute chaos. The entire audience jumped to their feet in a roaring standing ovation. Cheers thundered so loudly it felt like the walls were shaking. The boy stood frozen, eyes wide, tears forming as he tried to process what was happening. He had never heard applause like this before. On stage, the judges stood as well. Sophia clapped enthusiastically, shouting, "That was unbelievable." Heidi rushed forward, calling him an angel. Howie looked emotional, saying he had goosebumps from head to toe. Then Simon Cowell spoke, and when Simon speaks after a performance like this, the world listens. He paused, choosing his words carefully before saying, "I have seen a lot of singers in my life, but what you just did was something very, very special." The boy covered his mouth, overwhelmed. Simon admitted he hadn't expected much at first, but this performance completely shattered every expectation he had. Simon leaned forward, his voice softer than usual, and said something that made the audience gasp. "You know," he said, "this show is about discovering stars, and I think we just found one." The boy began to cry openly now, his shoulders shaking as he wiped his tears. Simon praised not just his voice, but his courage, traveling across the world, standing alone on a massive stage, and delivering a performance that moved millions. He asked about the boy's family, and when the boy spoke about wanting to lift them out of poverty, the audience erupted again. Simon nodded slowly, visibly emotional, and then came the moment everyone would replay again and again. With a small smile, Simon said, "I think America is going to fall in love with you." The crowd screamed. Confetti cannons exploded. Whether it was a golden buzzer moment or a unanimous yes, the result was clear. This boy's life had changed forever in a single song. As the boy left the stage, still shaking, still crying, one thing was certain. This wasn't just a viral audition. It was the birth of a global inspiration. Overnight, his story spread across social media. Millions watched the clip, replaying that first note again and again. People from around the world commented, saying his voice gave them hope, reminding them that miracles can come from the most unexpected places. Back home in the Philippines, his village gathered around small screens, cheering and crying with pride. For the boy, America's Got Talent was never just about winning a competition. It was about proving that no dream is too big, no beginning too small. And as Simon Cowell watched him disappear backstage, even he knew this was one of those rare moments that defined the show. A boy walked onto the AGT stage with nothing but a dream, and walked off having changed his life, and the hearts of millions forever.